got a lot to say. It feels like I'm carrying a 2-ton weight. I go to see a friend.
Hello, I'm Monsignor Patrick Winslow.
And I am Father Matthew Kauth.
And we are speaking from the rooftop.
A podcast brought to you by 10 Books, in which we invite you to join our conversation out here in the open air,
where we look out upon the world around us from the rooftop of the church and share with you what we see.
Makes me wanna scream from the rooftop to the screen till I know.
Well, hello there.
Well, good morning. How are you?
I caught you off guard.
A little bit. I was thinking you should try it sometime.
I won a lottery. I actually found the moment that you had to think.
Oh, heavens, yeah, autopilot. What's going on? Happy Easter season again.
Yes, likewise.
Still in the Easter season.
I'm in a different setting at the moment. I'm in my home chapel. I think it's
Nice.
So welcome to my home, everybody. But I set up here occasionally when I have to do an interview or something like that. But I also obviously mostly pray here and offer mass here on the occasions where I don't have a public mass, where I am otherwise committed.
Nice.
So yeah, glad to invite people into my home.
Our walls are sort of similar there. I just noticed that.
They are a bit.
In terms
They
of color.
are actually. I think that the light that I have on is coloring it a little more green to match yours, but in reality, this is just a little less green than yours.
Hmm.
But you're probably not very good at discerning colors.
Most things I'm not very good at discerning. Especially friends.
All right, so here's a question for you.
Yeah.
All right, both of us are in our 50s, right? Are we both in our 50s?
Yep.
Okay. So, from our perspective, what do you think lies at the root of most people's challenges?
Aside from sin?
Right. I mean, obviously, we can get right down to the rock bottom.
Of course.
We could say sin and death, but the type of roots that people don't ordinarily take notice of, but if they took notice of, would be helpful. But we can begin, of course, by saying that obviously sin and death is at the root of it all. But extrapolating out from there, it kind of hits people's lives differently, uniquely. But there tends to be, I think, some common traits or common experiences that trip everybody up, or that an aspect to the struggles that we have that we're not really seeing well. And if we might be able to see it a little bit better, we might have a better chance.
I mean, I have an initial thought. It may be too 30,000 foot level. Maybe you're looking for more granular, but I've been thinking a lot lately about since Easter season and the way in which our Lord would transition us from having him in the flesh to not having him in the flesh, and developing a kind of sacramental vision of life. It's been on my mind a lot. And one of the things that occurred to me is Aristotle once said that genius can be shown in the one who is the master of metaphor. That's something you can't teach. You can't teach metaphor. In other words, you're seeing a proportion between two different things. So A is to B what C is to D. Very simple sort of thing like that. And the way in which the poet, for example, will take things that everyone else thinks are dissimilar and shows how they have a certain similarity in proportion that puts it into relief. I think I used the example once of a lion's mane and a chrysanthemum, two things that are very, very different, but because they both are coming from God, they have a kind of likeness to God in some way, and they happen to have a likeness to each other, each bringing out the attribute of the other. Or as we say typically, that the evening of the day is like the end of one's days, like the end of one's life. The sun is setting, or something to that nature. And when I'm thinking about it, it's certainly the case that we look for those kinds of similarities. We look for ways to express ourselves, especially those of us who teach or preach a lot, to try to bring in something that's very familiar to someone to express something that's not similar, or not familiar, I should say, by these sort of proportions. And so whenever we're preaching or teaching, we're looking for analogies, right? We're looking for, it's kind of like, it has a certain proportion to this or whatever, to try to draw people's minds, lead them on to see something, because you can't make them see it. And then I got to thinking that I'm always looking for that metaphor, that analogy, but our Lord does the opposite. Like, he's not walking around saying, that's a vine. That's kind of like me. I'm kind of like a vine, and you're kind of like branches, and you're kind of like, I want to see the fruits that hanging off the branches, etc. It's just the opposite. Like, he's creating these things into reality. Like, when he looks at himself and beholds himself and makes a vine, the analogies that he uses, the metaphors he uses in his parables, are not apt because they are that in creation, and he applies them to something else. They are that because he's applied them to himself in creating them. See what I'm saying?
Well, partly. So let me see if I'm getting what you're laying down. So you're saying that because he's the creator of these other realities, that there's something more going on than the type of analogy or metaphor that we would make.
Yeah, we make the metaphor on this side of creation and see the similarities, the proper proportions. But he, looking at himself and creating, when he thinks, for example, like, I'm going to give them my body, and so he makes bread. I'm going to give them my blood, and he creates wine. Like, he creates those things in view of the end.
So you have a certain premeditation.
Yeah, I mean, so everything in creation,
the thought pre-exists the reality.
Yeah, all the effects resemble causes in anything we do. But for him, as the cause of causes,
right? In certain sense, you're saying that we kind of stumble upon and learn the metaphor, the analogy,
exactly, of the divine mind.
He's the foundation and the author of them before they're ever discovered.
Right, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because I think that one of the main problems in the world now, with the reductionistic, materialistic, empiricist sort of world that guys like you in science have reduced us to, there's no meaning, right? There's no discovery, there's no adventure. And so we try to find ways to cure us of boredom by iPhones and whatever else, but like, that want of purpose or want of meaning that I think is spawned by an absence of wonder at things that actually are already, and how much they're communicating to us.
Have you been reading more of The Master and His Emissary?
I haven't. No, actually.
Because you're just hitting the nail on the head.
Is that right? No, I've not, but I wish I
had. And what was the other book you wrote? I can't remember which came first either.
Something about Matter Matters.
What is it?
Matter Matters or something.
Yes. So just so that people know what we're talking about, we may have mentioned it in the past.
And he's not a theist. He is a theist, but he's not a Christian necessarily.
Sure. But his insights are worthy.
About how the brain works. And I'm just getting to it from the standpoint of that if you saw creation like that sacramental creation, that all things that are manifest physically are communicating something to us that's not merely physical, that it's a letter, as it were, from God. It's a revelation of God. It has meaning and purpose and beauty, and it's from him.
Right.
It makes life so different.
I agree. I think that the reason why I bring up The Master's Emissary, and what's the author's name again?
McGilchrist,
who is a psychiatrist.
He's
an MD, specializing on in particular the
neurologist. Yeah.
So he's done a really in-depth study and presentation of the different hemispheres of the brain that go way beyond the really false truisms that people say about, your left brain or your right
Sure.
brain,
Yeah.
where the left brain is very, very technical and scientific and the right brain is artistic. Well, he says that's all hogwash. But he does characterize the left brain activity as being very localized, very data, local, and then whereas the right brain activity is being that which is involved in extracting and finding pattern and connecting and drawing out meaning.
Wholes, not parts.
Right. So he's, what he's saying ultimately is they're both important to the process, the biological process of thinking and coming to know with the use of our bodies, our brains. But he is giving a certain primacy to the right brain, the right hemisphere, because it needs to bring coherence and draw out meaning. And he is actually kind of saying that our culture is going the way of really idolizing the left hemisphere thinking, which is dividing everything, atomizing everything.
Yeah, manipulation.
Right, and that ultimately is behind so many of in the psychiatric realm, so many what we would call psychologically, well, I guess mental illnesses, where the right hemisphere is not engaged in the way it should be, and so people have all sorts of strange perceptions of reality, and people would. You might say in years past, oh, they're crazy, right? They can't pull the whole thing together. There's something wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying culture is doing this.
Yeah.
That culture is actually moving in this direction, and it leads to kind of like a craziness in the common view of reality because it's so atomized. But what you're saying, kind of getting back to your point, is the need for us to recognize that the master really is the right hemisphere, the brain, the left being its emissary, and that the right hemisphere, the brain, thinking in terms of extrapolating meaning, drawing out connection, seeing the similarity, the dissimilitude, pulling it all together and drawing out meaning, that really is something that's on the forefront of the Christian journey with respect to understanding God and drawing out meaning. I mean, I don't mean to bring it all to that. You're the one who introduced me to this author. Just
I think you're absolutely right. And the peril, not the peril, but the fulfillment of that sort of capacity of the right brain. If the emissary is gathering, particulars, and the master is the one extrapolating meaning, then you take it to that next level and realize that there's someone who put the meaning there.
Right.
And I'm getting to read it. Like I was made to read that and to receive that communication from him. Yeah, totally.
And it reminds me a little bit about some recently, relative to my line of particular work in the life of the church, and Jesus' priestly prayer at the Last Supper in the Gospel of John. Mainly, his emphasis is praying for unity, that they may be one as we are one. And there's an enormous emphasis on this issue. And if one merely at the superficial level looks at that prayer and says, well, it's, for the unity of all believers, that we're all one, and it just kind of glosses it over, I don't think we're drawing out the true meaning. And I'll tell you, I think one of the reasons why it is such a profound, for lack of a better term, intercession on behalf of the Son of God, is because I have to say that most of the things I deal with, either as a canonist or in the life of the local church, which I would imagine is the same in the universal church, are issues that keep us united. They can be from squabbles between priest and people, or people and people, or priest and priest. They can be, issues that pertain to the understanding of a doctrine, what we say, what we don't say. How do we all stay on the same page of the common faith and discipline and life of the church? And it's the area that requires I think the greatest amount of muscle in the life of the church. It really is extraordinary how much muscle, labor goes behind ultimately what I think could be characterized as keeping the unity in the life of the church. I mean, this is, I think, one of the great purposes of the Code of Canon Law. It's a legislative text that's coming from the popes, and it's keeping us all on a common page. And it's how we live and move in the life of the church. It's our anatomy and physiology in the life of the church. It's our kinesiology, how we act and behave with the outside world in the life of the church. And I would imagine that you would have a similar experience in the life of the seminary. How much of your blood, sweat, tears, and prayers in a given day have to deal with keeping everybody together and keeping everyone moving in the same direction and dealing with those challenges that happen between individuals or groups. It's constant. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I think in the secular world we see it outside of a Christian or religious context. We see that the HR department in a corporation is such a large looming feature. Why? Because even just in a secular organization, you're trying to keep the whole together. And there are certain rules and norms that you have to abide by and live by in order to be able to be part of that whole and to make the whole thing work. And that's why you end up with employment law.
Yeah, social entropy is real.
It's real, right? I mean, it's profound. And so it really struck me recently, because I'm always looking for ways in which to justify the work that I do in a given day or week, try to track it back to the gospel to make sure that I'm still living a religious life, because so much of what I deal with is practical and this sort of stuff that I'm always having to intellectually tie it back to, a sense of my own priestly vocation. And it really struck me how it ties back to that earnest, profound plea of Christ to the Father in the Spirit for that we may be one as He is there. One.
No, that's true. Have you ever heard of Jacob Collier?
No.
He's a fairly famous musician, very young guy. He's maybe 30 at this point. Won a ton of awards for his musical capacities. He's really a phenom, and I happened upon a video of his that someone sent to me, and he's perfect pitch. First of all, he plays about 20 different instruments. And
like me.
Exactly. So he walks into a symphony, and he's kind of dressed a bit like a clown. He's sort of baggy clothes, and he's all over the place. He's kind of wild.
It's like one of these undercover videos.
No, he just walks in. He's well known.
Is this truly how he presents himself generally?
Yeah,
he's not trying to hide.
He's always wearing very colorful, baggy, weird sort of things, and it's like his character. He's extremely bright, not only in terms of intelligence, but also in terms of his personality is bright.
Okay.
And he's English, and he can kind of pull the whole thing off. I don't know him at all, but this video that I watched was fascinating because he went in there, and I guess he does this with some frequency, and he went first to the string section and said, "From the basis, I want called a D minor chord here, or I want a D flat here, or whatever else." And every time he told the instrument what to do, he would make the sound, and they would
with his mouth.
Yeah, like he would always hit the exact right note, to the point where he had to correct some of the instruments because he knows every note in his head.
Wow.
He's trying to do is create something out of nothing. He had no prior decision of what kind of music he was going to make. But he went to every single section, gave them their notes, sometimes a succession of notes, and then they would make one section play together, then this section play together, and then he brings the whole thing together, then has them stop, and then he goes to the crowd. And he says, now you here. And he points to a section of the crowd. And he gives them a note. And they sing it. He goes like this. They raise it. He goes like this. They lower it. He does the whole thing with different sections. Then he brings the entire thing together. And it was stupefying,
Really?
mesmerizing. Not just in the video. But the reason I'm bringing it up is it's not that everyone has to play the same note.
Mm.
It's not that everyone has to play the same instrument. But if you're not making something that fits with everyone else, right, you're just dissonance.
Yeah.
And we part of the fall is just that I don't want to be a part of a whole. I want to be a whole.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make
Right.
music like that. And
The
so
unity and uniformity are not the same thing.
and the fights that I deal with. I'm trying to. My job here is to make sure that I protect the common good, not just the individual good. Yes, you might like that. You may want that to be your preference, and your preference has to be somehow vaulted onto everyone else. But that's not part of the common good.
Right.
Play your instrument. Play it well. I'm not trying to make you like everyone else. But
Right.
you had to. But here's the key. You know?
Right. Which is to play in unity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so when this happened, I want you to watch it because it brought me to tears. It looked like creation to me.
Mm.
It looked like Christ himself in creation. Just now, you're going to play this, and you do this, and everyone had to obviously express themselves in their own musicality, their own professionalism. They had to
Right.
know. No one remember how to play those notes.
They didn't know how they were going to fit in with
I had
everyone
no
else.
idea.
Yeah.
And what came out of that was so much more than any given person or any given instrument. And you could tell that everyone in the entire stadium or audience hall, music hall, was just euphoric about the fact that they were participating in something larger than any of them.
Isn't that
It was
something?
just created out of nothing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That is
Really,
beautiful.
really something.
And I think it does tie into the point, as much as it was a gratuitous tangent on your part.
Well, slightly, it's true. But
it does. It actually does. Because
you feel like a conductor.
Well, you're saying that there's the difference between unity and
Uniformity.
Uniformity.
You're saying this, right?
Right.
I mean, imagine you feel like a conductor. You're conducting basically the entire diocese.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, you're a vicar general, not the bishop.
Right.
But so much of what you have to do is like,
bring it all together.
I'm not trying to make you act like Father so and so. I'm not trying to force you to act like so and so or whatever. But
yeah.
here's the music.
Right, and this is what we're all
singing.
These sheets.
We're all singing this.
Without question. Now, how do we take the point that you bring up about seeing the pattern and connecting it in such a way that people can apply it to their own lives? Like, for example, I could see how proportion, to have the ability to look at all of the things that are going on around you and try to put them in the right proportion would lend itself to the advice, or at least the issue that you're addressing, which is, I think, being able to, as you say, to see similarity and dissimilarity and things like that. I think you're looking at also the size of things and the proportion of things and seeing whether they're appropriately proportioned. So, for example, I think oftentimes we allow very small things to take over. I think we don't allow the small things to actually become small, and that they play on our weaknesses or our faults in such a way that they become disproportionate. And to be able to have the perspective to see when that happens. And I see it all the time. Like, why is this rather small matter just gnawing at me? And most of the time, there's some fault of me involved. Most of the time it's because this presses my button here. Okay. And so if I address this thing in its right proportionate size, I have to address in some way this button that keeps being pushed. I have to somehow separate it out, but even more ideally, address why I have that button to begin with, if it's distorting reality.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a different use of the word proportion that I was going for, but I see what you're saying. Yeah. But you could get there by you can get there by saying, how does this fit
Hmm.
It's the whole. Where does this fit in my life in the whole?
In order to discern the correct proportion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. When you
Well,
look.
proportion for me was a relation between two things that are dissimilar, but they
No, I get that. I get
yeah,
that.
like a
You're helping the
ratio,
flesh.
like a ratio.
No, I get that. Mine was just one step away from what you were
Yeah.
saying, but it's a result. Like from the exercise that you're doing of seeing things
Yeah.
appropriately
Well,
and
and
using metaphor and analogy to see things appropriately, you
yeah,
might discover that you're blowing things out of proportion in your life, and then you
for
could.
sure. That's for sure. Yeah, no, totally. I think that what I'm wanting to generate in the men here, in myself, um, is a kind of a moral and Catholic um, imagination.
Mm,
That my imagination was sullied from childhood. With bad TV and idiotic things and what have you, and to clean all that out and to develop an actual habitus of trying to see the world as the world was given to us by God, and
mm,
all relations between things, having a sacramental vision. It means attending to things and actually contemplating them. That's hard to do. It's just really hard to focus on anything for much time, and to let it disclose itself to you, if you will. I don't know. It's just so beautiful out right now, and I guess I'm in that spring mode where I sit
well,
outside a
yeah,
lot.
I mean, well, you are reflecting upon those things that exist in nature versus analogy or metaphor based upon those things that are the result of creation, like a car or an airplane.
Yeah, sure. I'm talking about natural things, not
You're talking about
artifacts.
natural, those things that are directly created by
Yeah,
God, or
yeah, yeah.
natural forms.
It's just such an enjoyable way to live. But then if you could attend to things that as they are in creation, it certainly helps you to attend to things as they are in you, and where things
It's
are
one of the reasons why the bees feature in the Exaltet.
I know. Love that.
And also, like in St. Francis de Sales, I'm pretty sure in some of the things that I read, if I
Sure.
remember correctly, he draws upon a lot of analogy with the bees, and it's a pretty big deal to actually make it to the level of the Exaltet at the Easter Vigil. I mean, those bees are reflecting something significant.
Yeah. Well, and
Kind
if
of
we
going back
were,
to my point of unity.
I was just going to say, if we draw these two things together, when we look at what do you call that in biology, in an ecosystem, or
Symbiotic.
just the relations out there that make all that work. I'm by the window here. Like in that grass is not just grass. There's so many different things that allow grass to grow.
Yeah, it's there's a whole ecosystem.
Whole
Yeah.
ecosystem is going on in there, and how they depend upon each other, and how they can't actually exist without each other.
Right. There's an
Um,
interdependence. There's
yeah,
a
and
symbiosis. Mhm.
I love that. And you can't. No one lives. And this is the no man is an island kind of thing. You don't ever live as a whole. You're always part
Mhm.
of something else, even though you're a unique person and all that kind of stuff. But and the faith just makes it that much more because we're united in the one common good who is God. We have the same end. We're united in the same truth, which doesn't mean sameness.
Mhm.
That's true. That's great.
Yeah, and just so people know, um, there's a sentence or two about the bees, or at least one sentence anyway, or a phrase about the bees making the wax that
Mhm.
went into producing the candle
Mhm.
that is being blessed,
Mhm.
and it's part of the prayer that that is chanted um, at the time, right after the candle's been blessed. The candle's been possessed into the church, and the light of Christ is illuminating the darkness in the church, and is supposed to be chanted by the deacon, sometimes the priest, and if not a cantor. And it's a pretty exalted place.
No, no
In
pun intended.
Yes, none. It's called the Exaltet, and it's very, very beautiful, but it really draws upon the natural imagery. Of course, it draws upon images of sacred scripture, but there are a few references to the natural imagery, to the bees that make the wax. And of course, we also see in the writings of various saints an example of the different roles that the bees have in their hive, and how there's a certain royalty and a noble class and a worker class, and how they all come together to serve a whole. And that's being held out as an example of I don't want to say a perfect society, but something like it, where that we're all collaboratively working toward a common end, and we're working together in our own ways. And as you said earlier on, talking about just taking our part and being the best at it, doing what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And there is that imagery in the bees. I mean, here it's interesting that we find ourselves starting the conversation ultimately about, or preeminently about, how it is that we look toward the patterns that exist in those things around us, and draw analogy and metaphor to learn things. This is kind of your advice about facing the stuff that we face in life and how to persevere. And now, after this conversation, we're actually coming back to a concrete image, such as the bees, being something like that, where we can draw out from it, in its metaphor and analogy, the types of things that one can learn from a beehive.
Indeed. I mean, you think about the passage that we sing all the time on Sunday, from the sacred scriptures about snow and hail, bless the Lord, ice and rain, whatever.
Right.
And it goes through so many different things. And of course, the great devotion of our friend Father Gober, about the fourth or fifth day into Easter one year. And you have to say that every morning. And he looks at everything on this page, bless the Lord.
Just get right to the point.
But the particularity, right? Sea creatures, land creatures. This song of praise goes through everything. It's all those things, bless the Lord. But it's man, the natural priest, the one who can read and is rational, can say, I know how you're blessing the Lord.
Yeah.
And I offer this up as a rational sacrifice, right? A reasonable sacrifice, as the Mass says. That my praise is drawing up all the creation underneath me to see how you've done this and to praise you for it. That's just a great way to live.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, good. All right. Well, then.
Well, before we go, I wanted to ask you about. First of all, it was fun having the live show.
It was. Hopefully, we're able to.
I think we salvaged something. Yeah, the microphones are messed up, and Ten has so graciously set both you and I up with a new microphone, and we've yet to.
Every time we've gotten together, we forget to pass it on to me, so I will do my very best. This is the
last time with inferior microphones.
That's the plan.
But it was fun, and I think that at some point, then or after that, we got talking about your method to determine real estate in your life.
Oh yeah. Well, no, we talked about some practical ways to fool yourself, or
we did, but I was going to key up on the one about real estate.
So in particular, I was saying how I'll look at certain things in my drawers in the kitchen and I'm like, what are you doing there? You don't pay the real estate. I'm sorry, right. You can't afford the rent in this district.
That's right.
It's like real estate. So I'm like,
you're too close to sink.
You need to go to the garage. I use you once a year. And you're occupying space here, right on the boardwalk? No. So I do this.
You're in the suburbs.
And I feel, the funny thing is when you turn it into a game like that, it's very motivating, because I start to feel the injustice. What are you doing? You can't afford that. Get back to your place. Get in the garage. Then it forces me to find a place.
Cuisinart, you do not belong on a counter.
What's that?
A Cuisinart does not belong on a counter.
No, it does not. If it was working every single day, it could pay the rent.
It can pay the rent,
it's like the coffee maker. The coffee maker pays the rent.
It does.
If you want to, so much so that if you want to get one of those appliance garages where you pull it down over you know what? It's worth the extra expense, because the coffee maker deserves its wage.
Yeah.
Like it can afford to have a very expensive garage door in front of it.
Yeah, this isn't like the parable of the workers in the vineyard, where the last ones get the same wage. No. Nope. This is a better strict justice.
This is strict justice. And sometimes I do elevate. I'm like, this needs to be in the kitchen, and this.
Oh, so there's social mobility in both directions.
Yes, like a pair of scissors, for example. It's amazing how often in the course of a week I need to grab a pair of scissors.
Hmm.
They now prominently and proudly occupy a high real estate place in what I call the organized drawer. I don't call it a junk drawer because my father thinks that that's licensed to just throw everything in there. So I insist that it's referred to as the organized drawer.
Okay.
So when he's here, I'll say it's in the organized drawer. And he'll say, "You mean the junk drawer?" No, it's an organized drawer. That's how, if we can't find things we own, we might as well not own them.
Yeah.
So there's some order and organization. Actually, so before we go, I'll tell you a little bit about how I've organized my otherwise known as junk drawer. Is I had some extra silverware racks. You know, the little partitions that you put in the drawers to your spoons.
Can I ask a question about those just before you go on?
What?
Why do they get dirty?
I don't know. You know what? It's a great
I'm
question.
only putting perfectly clean silverware in there. Anyway, go ahead.
Maybe it's stuff that falls off.
Losing a sock in the dryer. I don't understand it. Go ahead.
Well, it just happens. So I took those silverware racks, 2 of them, and I put them in the drawer. And there's some negative space but that kind of works to partition that space that it doesn't, that is still left over. And it creates all these places that I'm not going to use for silverware, but it's a place for scissors or tape or paper clips or, whatever it is you want to put in there. And it just helps keep it a bit organized. Yeah. And I thought, this is great, because when I had a junk drawer in the past, part of the problem was its formlessness. It was just ubiquitous. Everything just went everywhere. Yep. And again, it's pointless. I mean, I would go buy something new because I couldn't find it. And then one day when I finally organized my junk drawer, there were these things, and I thought, well, that was a waste. Why did I even bother? Yeah, you didn't pay the rent. You weren't even there when I needed you. So I had to.
Landlord evicted him.
Yeah, but I'll tell you though, it helps me. Gretchen she's my admin assistant at the diocese, and she's helped me see that there are very clever ways that you can engage parts of yourself that you're not inclined to. Like for me, doing a lot of this order and organization, if you were to listen to me, you might think I was a neat freak or super organized or type A. I am not. These are learned skills, but I do get frustrated by the absence of that order that motivates me enough to, okay, I got to address this because this is cumbersome. Yeah. But Gretchen has brought some of these tools, simple things like try to make things fun. She gives me stamps. It's so much better than just signing a piece of paper. I get to stamp it, and then I can sign it. It's like then you can sign it. It appeals to the second grader in me. That's just so much more fun. I get to the end and I get to do something, right?
Are your stamps edible too? A little sugar?
Yeah, exactly. It's like getting a sticker, little smiley face or something. And then she does the same thing in terms of order and organization because she's extremely organized. And so she has to do the hard thing of trying to get me to be ordered and organized so that she can help me fulfill all the things I need to do. And she's extraordinary. So I've learned a number of these things because I've watched her try to dupe me into order and organization. She's tried to fool me, coax me along with these little tiny tricks that you would think are only useful with toddlers, and they work on me. So now I've started to do them to myself at home, and it's been to great effect. It really has. It's been to great effect.
Well, wise. I wanted that bit of wisdom to go out to the folks.
What's that?
I wanted that bit of wisdom to go out to the folks.
Well, good.
Enjoyed the conversation.
Wonderful. All right. Well, then I took care of it. You propped me up, and I took care of it. That was our tandem before we go.
Exactly. Awesome.
All right.
Well, blessings on all of you. Have a great week.
Yes.
And we'll see you next time.
Happy Easter.
Yeah. Bye-bye now.
Makes me wanna scream from the rooftop to the screen.
Thanks for listening to this episode of From the Rooftop.
For updates about new episodes, special guests, and exclusive deals for From the Rooftop listeners, sign up at rooftop.org.
podcast.com.
And remember, for more great ways to deepen your faith, check out all the spiritual resources available at tanbooks.com.
And we'll see you again next time
from the rooftop.